What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Joe Culpepper Outdoors. I'm Joe Culpepper, and today I want to go over what to look for in a compound bow when you go to buy it. Now, I've got a list of 6 items to look for, and then I have them ranked in order of importance. In my opinion, now these will definitely change from person to person, but I want to tell you what these are, why I chose these, and then tell you what order I placed these in. So, um, the first thing you have to consider, and this was not one of my 6 because I think this is something that you have to figure out before you ever even start thinking about what bow you're going to buy. You have to think about your price. And like I said, the price is not one of the 6 that I listed because it is the first thing you have to think about before anything else can come into play. You have to figure out how much money do I want to spend on the bow. And then you have to think about how much do I want to spend on accessories. Or you could just say how much do I want to spend on the total package out the door price. Now, that's going to vary from person to person, but figuring out where your price point is going to be is extremely important because that's going to determine what bows that you're going to get to even think about on these other or what bows you're actually going to be able to put through these tests and figure out where they rank in these items that I have listed over here. So, number one thing to think about before you think about anything else is you have to figure out your price. How much do I want to spend on this bow and everything to go on it? And then we can start to think about what bows we want to shoot. So, or test fire. So, I've got these broken down, like I said, into six different things. And so one thing to look at is going to be your draw cycle. So how does the bow feel as you draw it back? Is it a smooth draw, or are there any humps? Or is it really stiff in the front and then dumps in the back? Or is it really light in the front and then it just dumps all the weight on you in the back of the draw cycle? Those are things that you need to pay attention to, and everybody's going to have a different opinion when they go to shoot a bow of what the draw cycle feels like to them. So you can hear someone say that one bow is particularly smooth, and then you can go shoot it and it feels completely different to you. So very important that you actually go shoot these bows yourself. So another thing that we need to look at is stability. Now, when I say stability of the bow, um, how much or how hard is it to keep that bow straight up, straight up, or does it want to go this way or that way? And I'm talking no stabilizers, no sight, nothing on the bow, just the bare bow. Is the bow itself stable? Does it want to just stay where it's at and point at the target, or does it want to get squirrely and kind of move all over the place? That's very important because that's going to determine how accurate the bow is going to be once you put accessories on it. And of course, accessories can help, but they can also hurt. So having a bow that's stable right out of the gate with nothing on it is extremely important. So another thing that you're going to have to think about is what kind of features does this bow have, and or does it offer? So for example, if you buy a Bowtech, you've got the I think they call it the deadlock features, where you can actually tune the bow with I think it's just an Allen. It's like an Allen wrench, excuse me, and you can move your cams, or make them go whatever way they need to for you to tune the bow. They've also got some time lock feature, I believe now, to help you with the timing of the bow. Um, and then if we just want to keep using Bowtech, you've got a rear pick mount that you can actually mount your rest to for the integrated system, and you've got the center mass sights that Black Gold is making for them, so you can actually run the sight through the riser. Very similar to the Matthews Bridge lock. I don't really know how they got around a patent there, but I guess it was different enough because it's not it's not just a more standard dovetail. So I guess that's how they got around it, but it's too similar for me to really think it should be the way it is. Hoyt's going to give you the pick mount on the front, so you can actually have a pick mounted sight bolted straight to the front, doesn't have to go around the side. Trying to think of the other features that companies might have. Elite's got their set technology. They've also got the LTR on their roller guards, or I think it's called the roller guard, where you can actually move it in and out. If your flexors are coming in contact, you can push that down a little bit, so you don't have to worry about that. But those are all features offered on the bow. Those are things to think about. What kind of features do I want? Do I want more accessory oriented features? Do I want more timing and tuning features? What am I looking for in a bow? So another thing to pay attention to is how the vibration and the noise of the bow. And I group those two together because generally if a bow vibrates more, it's going to be louder. If a bow is louder, it's going to vibrate more. If it's quieter, it's probably going to have less vibration. So those two really go hand in hand, in my opinion. And that's really only important if you're hunting, because if you're shooting a bow and it sounds like a gong being struck, that deer, especially if you're shooting you got a little bit further shot and a slower arrow or whatever, that deer is going to hear that a little bit better and possibly react more. Also, vibration, having less than vibration is kind of just a quality of life thing, honestly. It doesn't necessarily make you a better shot or make the bow more accurate, but it can definitely help you not get as weary with a bow, if that makes sense. You don't want a bow that just rattles your hand really bad, or most people don't, just because it's not a pleasant experience. So if you're wondering why I keep reaching over here, I've got my pen and I'm marking these out, so I make sure that I go through them. Next thing is speed. You have to think about how fast is this bow. And I'll get into speed a little bit later, but I'm not talking about IBO. I'm talking about actual speed of the bow. So if you're hunting, speed is going to be extremely important, because you want as fast as you can get, so you can get that arrow to the deer, or elk or moose or whatever you're hunting, before the animal has a chance to react, to give you a better chance of harvesting that animal ethically and make the animal suffer as little as possible. And the final criteria is availability. So when I say availability, I'm not just talking about how many shops can I walk into that will actually have this product on their shelf ready to go, or will have at least had it, but maybe they're just, they sold their last one yesterday and they've got some more on order. It's not just the bows, it's the parts and the knowledge of how to work on those particular bows. So like for Mathews is a great example. They don't have a rotating mod. It's a fixed mod, and that's how you change your draw weight, your poundage, your let off. All those kind of things are determined by the mod that is on that bow. So if you buy a Mathews bow and you don't have a shop nearby, and you realize that, hey, my draw length's a touch too long or it's a touch too short, I want to go down a couple pounds, I want my my let off to be a little bit different. If you don't have a shop that's close to you that will swap those mods out, you're going to have to order them online, and that's not a good thing. But most shops do carry Mathews, so that's always a good thing for those that do decide to use those bows. But also, like Elite, I know when I had my Elite, my local shop did not work on Elites, and it actually wound up almost causing me some problems, because I wanted to take that bow to them to work on, because I didn't want to get in my truck and drive an extra hour just to get to the shop that sold me the bow. But just another thing to think about when you're buying a bow, and the knowledge, how do these people, like I was talking about with the Elite, do they interact with this bow a lot? Can they fix it if something happens? Can they diagnose the problem? Really, if I'm anywhere in the country, like if I went out west to go on an elk hunt and something happened to my bow, could I walk into a shop and get good service on my particular bow? I feel like that's pretty important. So we'll get into the order that I placed these in for me. So out of the 6, The first one is availability. And yes, I know I shoot Matthews. That's part of the reason I really like Matthews, because you can go in almost any shop in America and they either have Matthews or they deal with Matthews all the time, because it is just so popular. And I and like I was talking about with the if I go out west on a hunt and I'm not anywhere near my local shop and I just happen to pop in some random shop, will they be able to work on my bow if there's a problem? And if you have a Matthews, I mean, pretty much everybody works on Matthews. If you have a Hoyt or a Bowtech, I mean, the same thing. A lot of people sell those bows, or at least they work on them enough because it's a common bow. They can probably fix your problem. And even if there's a part, like if you have a cracked limb or something, the possibility of them having that in stock so they can fix it for you, even if you have to pay a little bit more to get it done right. Then, the more common the bow is, the more common the brand is, the more popular it is, the better chance you have of getting your bow fixed faster. So that's my number one criteria, is availability. My second criteria is stability. And now I know for a hunting bow, a lot of people don't care too much about stability because they're only taking 20, 30-yard shots. But I don't like to have a bow that sole purpose is to shoot 30 yards. I think, to me, that's a waste. And it's a waste of time for me to just shoot 30 yards all the time, because it's just a close distance and I shoot 30 really, really well. Why wouldn't I challenge myself and go further? So the stability of your bow, like I said, how well it wants to point, how easy it is to keep the bow straight instead of just a little, just a little bit bottom kicking out to the left or to the right, or anything like that. The more stable your bow is, the better your shooting experience is going to be. So I place stability at number 2, because stability is so incredibly important. It makes you more accurate and it makes you more consistent with your shots. Now, number 3 is, and I've had to change these last several ones around a couple times, and it was just today that I decided I decided to move my number 3 to that spot, and that's speed. Speed is so incredibly important for hunting. I don't think it's negotiable to have, or to get a bow to go as fast as you can possibly get it within reason. I think shooting a bow that actually shoots through a chronograph 360, 370 foot a second, that's a little excessive. You don't necessarily need anything that fast, especially if the draw cycle is really harsh. But having a bow that shoots a good speed is incredibly important to a bow hunter, whether it's elk, deer, whatever it possibly could be. Speed is incredibly important. And that also comes in with your arrow selection. You guys know I like shooting pretty light arrows because I like my speed. I don't want to sacrifice speed for nothing, really. So speed is ranked number 3. And do not go by IBO speeds, because most companies are going to blatantly lie to you to sell you their product. And I'm ashamed to say that Matthews is notorious for this. And I found it out today because I had to go to Powerhouse in Tifton, Georgia, because they had some stuff for me, because I'm going to start tying my own D-loops and such. I'm wanting to do all my work on my own bows. So when I went up there, I shot my hunting bow through the chronograph, and it's a short axle to axle 75-pound Matthews, and I haven't done a video on that bow yet, and I probably won't now because I was so disappointed by this result. 75 pounds, 29.5-inch draw, 29 axle to axle bow, with a 396 grain arrow. It was shooting 308 foot a second. Good speed. I mean, it's pretty fast. It is pretty fast. But my Phase 4 shoots a 437 grain, Phase 433, same spec, 75 pounds, 29.5-inch draw length, 437 grain arrow, 293 foot a second. So I didn't gain that much by dropping a lot of weight and losing a lot of FOC. So I wound up asking them if there was a bow that would give me more speed, and they handed me a we shot a couple different ones, but the one that really impressed me was a PSE Evolve 30 DS. Now that's their aluminum bow for this year. They also have the Mach 30, which is the carbon bow, which has just absolutely come out swinging against all these other companies. It's been a phenomenal performing bow for a lot of people. But anyways, this Evolve 30 DS has an IBO rating of 338 feet a second, which is less than my hunting bow's 340 IBO. But the Evolve 30 DS shot the same arrow at 70 pounds, 30-inch draw, which actually came in a little short. Because, I mean, when I locked back, I was just a little bit further forward than I'm used to. So it was a little bit shorter draw length than what I was shooting on my Mathews. Even with 5 pounds less weight and a little bit less, excuse me, a little bit less draw length, it still shot 10 feet a second faster, or a little over 10 feet a second. That bow hit 318, 319 foot a second actual speed through the chronograph. Pay attention to your chronograph speed. Don't go by IBO. If you went by IBO, you would say, well, this particular Mathews bow is faster. Absolutely not the case by any stretch of the imagination. The PSE beat the socks off of the Mathews bow. And I'm ashamed to have that Mathews bow now compared to that PSE. I'm just going to be completely honest. But that's enough about that. We can talk about speeds and IBOs all day. But number 4 is draw cycle. So I would have said 2 years ago, probably draw cycle would have been number 1. But as I have grown in my archery journey and gone further and further forward, I've realized that draw cycle is not the most important thing, mostly because you're going to get used to any draw cycle that you shoot. So even if, like right now, if I wanted to go buy a PSE, even though the draw cycle is a little bit stiffer, especially in the front, over time I'm going to get used to that draw cycle and it's going to feel natural. Then going back to Mathews, it's not going to feel that good anymore. So I could have put draw cycle a little bit further down in all reality, but I put it where it is because you want to stay away from bows that are really stiff to pull back and have big humps or big valleys or whatever for a hunting bow, because you don't want the bow to be so hard to pull back that you struggle, especially if you're in an awkward position like you're hunting from a saddle or something. So draw cycle is not the most important thing, and really if every bow had a relatively uniform draw cycle, then that could be number 6. You know, it could be at the bottom of the bottom for all I care. You're going to get used to any bow you shoot. So number 5 is the vibration free and noise. And like I said, this one should be bumped up, and it would be number 4 if it were not for all these crazy bows with these stupid hard drawing cams. But I think vibration, having just a small amount of vibration is very important for a hunting bow, because that coincides with the noise. And the quietest bow you can possibly get is, in my opinion, the best, just because it gives the animal, or it's not as big of a disturbance when you're shooting at an animal like a deer. Of course, a deer is going to jump pretty much any string, but maybe when you're shooting something a little bit different, speed will be even more important. But or the noise will be more or less important, just depending on what you're hunting. But I put it at number 5 just for this particular list. And like I said, draw cycle kind of messes my list up, but I'm doing this as a blanket statement. So number 6 is features, because do features make that big of a difference? Now, some would say yes, some would say no. And from my personal experience, the answer is integrated rests, no different. Integrated sights, no different. More expensive arrows, no different. You can spend more money for better features, but they're not going to necessarily correlate to greater accuracy in the long run. You might see some slight benefits, but to me, they're so small, it's really not worth the price of admission for most people. Now, I like to use the features. I'm not going to lie. I really like having the integrated rests and I like having the bridge lock sights. Are they necessary? Absolutely not. You can get by just fine without them. It's not an imperative. The rests are not better quality rests. The sights are not better quality sights. There's just not a lot of return on your investment, in my opinion. Now, if we get into tuning features and timing features and stuff, I think those are a lot more important. But at the same time, your tuning generally should be a one-time deal. You tune your bow once, and then when you put a new string on it, or if you change arrows or whatever, you will have to retune it. But it shouldn't be something that you have to do every few months or anything, unless you're just doing something crazy. So that's my breakdown for hunting bows. In my opinion, what's the most important things to look for. So just to recap, number 1 is availability, number 2 is stability, 3 is speed, 4 is draw cycle, 5 is vibration, free, and noise, and 6 is features. So if we switch over to a target bow, how does the target bow compare to the hunting bow, in my personal opinion? Well, what I'm looking for in a target bow, number 1 thing is stability. Nothing is more important than stability when you're in a target situation. You can hold as long as you need to hold. There's no penalty for that most of the time, unless you're just taking a ridiculously long time to shoot, like I've seen some people do. But stability is the number 1 thing, because you've got to be accurate if you want to win. You have to be accurate. Number 2 is the features, and when I say features, I'm more talking about the stability type features of the bow, not necessarily the tuning features, although those are important and useful, or the integrated features. Again, I don't think they make a big enough difference. But when I say features, when I'm talking about a target bow, how wide are the limbs? How long is the riser in conjunction to the axle to axle? How long is the riser in general? How long is the axle to axle of the bow? All those I would consider features, and they will make or break your target bow. So that's why that's placed in number 2, or features are number 2, but it's all in conjunction with number 1, stability. Number 3 is draw cycle, and whereas the hunting, I feel like everything except features is vital. So availability is vital, stability is vital, speed is vital, draw cycle is vital, and vibration low vibration and low noise is absolutely vital. Features, not so much. I feel like the target, stability, and stability features are absolutely vital. The rest of these, you can shuffle them around, move them however you want to move them, and it's not going to make that big of a difference. But number 3 for target for me is going to be draw cycle, just because you don't want anything that's just not pleasant to shoot. But like I said, draw cycle is significantly less important than stability for a target or competition bow, especially because most people are going to shoot these bows at between 55 and 65 pounds for guys. And at least to me, at 70 pounds, it has to be a really stiff drawing bow for me to even feel anything in the draw cycle. So draw cycle is just not really important in the grand scheme of things, because once you get it back there, you don't have to pull it back immediately again, generally speaking. So I don't think it's that important. Number 4 is going to be low vibration, low noise. Just, again, it's a quality of life thing. It's not a necessity to have a low vibration, low noise target bow. Nobody really cares how loud your bow is. You're probably not going to care that much if it's got some vibration to it. You're not shooting animals that can react. You're shooting targets that do not move. So it's not really that important. Number 5 is availability. Because you can't get target bows anywhere. You have to order them. every target bow. So if they were more readily available, like I could walk into any shop and find any target bow, or find a target bow at least that would fit me, this would definitely rank higher. But I just couldn't put it any higher because nobody stocks target bows, at least not near me. And if I seem a little frustrated about that, it's because I am a little bit frustrated, because I want to shoot a bow before I order it. You can't do that if you have to order the bow and commit to buying it before it comes in. So that kind of agitates me about the whole target situation. But if you have a shop that carries target bows and you're wanting to get into target archery, go shoot every single one just like you would with a hunting bow, because most of us don't get that privilege. And please go enjoy it. Please enjoy it. Number 6 is speed. Now, for some people, when it comes to target, speed is extremely important. Guys with shorter draw lengths, women that are shooting in competition, guys that shoot lower poundage. Speed is incredibly important. I have the exact opposite problem. Speed is my enemy for things like ASA events. So for those of you who don't know, in ASA, your bow has to shoot through the chronograph at 280 foot a second or less. They give you a 3% variance. I believe it's 3%. So you can shoot 289, but I would prefer for mine to actually chrono at like 280 to 283. Why is speed unimportant for me? Well, like I said, speed is my enemy for target. I shoot 29.5 inches in Mathews. I shoot 30 inches, possibly even 30.5 in some other brands. So I have really good speeds. I also shoot 70 pounds. I don't shoot anything less than 70 pounds because it doesn't feel right to me. And I don't like the way those bows draw back because it's just too easy. And I don't feel like I'm challenging myself at all to shoot a 60 or 65 pound bow. If you're in a situation where that's all you can draw, do it. Go for it. I wish you the best. I'm not trying to be that guy that's flexing on anyone else. I'm just saying, for me, 70 pounds is the minimum that I want to shoot, because that's the minimum that's really all I've ever shot. 67-ish to 70 pounds. That's what I do. That's what I've always done. And I don't see a need to change that. So when it comes to actually building an arrow, a target arrow around the particular specs I shoot at, it is a nightmare to build any arrow to go those speeds without putting a ridiculous amount of weight in the front or getting an arrow that is ridiculously over-spined. So it really limits your options, and you really have to pay attention to every little thing that you do with a target arrow. There's a reason I don't have target arrows right now, and it's partially because of how much they cost, but it's also the absolute frustration I would deal with just trying to get the right setup to shoot the right speed so I don't break the rules. So, like I said, that one is going to be higher up on the list of guys that have shorter draw lengths or lower poundages, and pretty much most women. But it's easier if you have a lower poundage to get an arrow that's going to fly right and get you the speed you need, whereas your heavier ones, it's a little more iffy, like I was saying. So just to recap, the target competition bow, what do I look for? Number 1 is stability. Absolutely imperative. Number 2 is features, specifically those related to stability. Those are the ones I'm worried about. I don't care about pick mounts. I don't care about bridge lock. I don't care about integration. None of that matters to me. I just want stability in my target bow. Number 3 is draw cycle. Don't really care, but it's a quality of life thing. Same thing with number 4. Low vibration, low noise. Quality of life things. Not necessary for target. Number 5 is availability, because most shops do not carry target bows. And yes, I'm still very annoyed about that. And I probably will be annoyed until every shop carries target bows. But I understand it's not a big market. I'm okay with that. But I just really wish they would carry some target bows. But Number 5 is availability. Number 6 is speed to me, because like I said, I just have such a hard time building an arrow that's going to give me what I need for target and not be absolutely unnecessarily heavy or unnecessarily over spine or anything like that. Just really hard for me because of the specs that I shoot and everything. So yeah, take that with a grain of salt if you want to, which you probably should. But figure out what your most important things are. And if you're going to buy a bow this year, hunting or target competition bow, whichever one, take him and list these things out. And if there's anything that I missed, let me know in the comments and add it to your list and rank these in order of importance to you and let that decide what bow you're going to shoot. Because just because I'm shooting Mathews right now, I'm not telling anybody to go buy a Mathews, okay? If you go shoot a Mathews and it feels great to you, awesome. Buy that bow. If that's the bow you want, go for it. I'm 100% behind you. If you shoot a Mathews and a Bowtech and you like a Bowtech better, go for the Bowtech. That's great. I'm happy for you. If you like a PSE, go for it. I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm not telling anybody to buy Mathews because Mathews is not for everybody. And that's a big benefit of not being sponsored too. I don't have to recommend anybody's products to you by a contractual obligation. If I recommend something, it's because I think it's the best, or at least I think it is a good buy, or it is important or useful in some way. So go shoot every bow that you can get your hands on if you're going to buy a new hunting or target bow for this year. And think about these things when you're shooting. Don't think about your buddy who just bought the brand new lift. Don't think about your buddy that just bought the Mach 30. Go in and say, I'm going to buy the best bow for me, even if nobody else I know shoots this bow. As long as it's a reputable brand and it shoots good for you and you like it, that's the most important thing. So I've kind of rambled on in this video, and I feel like I've covered a lot, but I hope that this is useful and maybe it helps you figure out what you need to do for your particular situation for your bows this year. So anyways, with all that being said, take all this with a grain of salt if you so desire. It's not going to hurt my feelings. So everybody, please stay safe, stay in the outdoors. May God bless you, and I will catch you on the next one.